This is why everyone feels lost at 30, live proof. If you're 30, or getting close, and something about your life feels off, stay with me, because what I'm about to show you is not motivation. It's not theory. It's not guesswork. It's pattern, global pattern, psychological pattern, economic pattern. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. There's a silent experience happening right now. Across America, across Africa, across Asia, millions of people reaching 30 and quietly asking themselves the same question. What am I doing with my life? And here's what makes it more dangerous. On the outside, everything may look fine. You're working, you're trying, you're surviving. But internally, something feels disconnected, like your life is moving, but you are not inside it. This is not rare. In fact, recent data shows that over 40% of adults report feeling lonely at least sometimes, and millions experience it daily. Science of people. And here's the shocking part. It's not just older people. It's young adults, people in their 20s and early 30s. So this feeling you have, it's not personal, it's generational. Let me explain something most people don't understand. Turning 30 is not just an age. It's a psychological checkpoint, an invisible line where your expectations collide with reality. In your 20s, life feels like preparation. Mistakes feel acceptable. Time feels abundant. You think, I still have time. But at 30, something shifts. Time suddenly feels real. Decisions feel heavier. And for the first time, you start measuring your life. You look at where you are and where you thought you would be, and the gap between those two things. That gap is where the feeling of being lost is born. Now let's go deeper, because the real reason is not what most people think. The first reason why people feel lost at 30 is because they were chasing a life that was never truly theirs. From a young age, you were given a script. Go to school, get good grades, find a job, build a career, make money, be successful, and without realizing it, you followed it, not because you deeply believed in it, but because it was expected. And here's where the problem begins. At some point, you stop asking, what do I want? And you start asking, what is expected of me? Psychological research confirms this pattern. Many people feel lost because they've been living according to external expectations, rather than internal clarity. Forbes. So at 30, you wake up one day and realize you built a life based on expectations, not alignment. And that realization, it shakes everything. Now let me give you an analogy. Imagine you are climbing a ladder. For years, you keep climbing, step by step, faster, harder, more effort, more sacrifice. And then one day, you finally pause. You look around and realize the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. That you climbed, you worked, you tried, but no one told you to check if the direction was yours. Now let's go deeper, because this gets even more powerful. The second reason people feel lost at 30 is identity evolution. The person you were at 20 is not the same person you are now. At 20, you chose based on pressure, survival, limited experience, fear of being left behind. But at 30, you've seen more, you've experienced more, you've learned what matters and what doesn't. Your values have changed, but your life hasn't updated. So now, you are living in a life that was designed by someone you used to be, and that creates internal conflict. It's like wearing clothes that used to fit you perfectly, but now feel tight, uncomfortable, and unfamiliar. Nothing is technically wrong, but everything feels wrong. Now let's bring this to real life. In the United States, there are people earning good salaries, working in corporate jobs, living in big cities, and still feeling empty, because success without meaning feels like pressure, not fulfillment. In Africa, there are people who did everything right, went to school, got degrees, followed the system, but are now facing unemployment, financial pressure, family expectations, and asking themselves, was all this effort worth it? In Asia, in countries like India and China, young professionals are working extreme hours, chasing success, but increasingly reporting burnout and loss of direction. Different environments, different economies, same feeling, because the problem is not location, it's alignment. Now let's introduce another powerful factor, social comparison. This is where things become dangerous, because today, you don't just live your life. You watch other people live theirs. Every single day, you scroll, and you see people succeeding, people traveling, people building businesses, people getting married, people buying homes. And slowly, without realizing it, you start measuring your life against curated highlights, not reality, highlights. And this creates a false perception, because now it feels like everyone is ahead of you, even when they are not. This is one of the most silent causes of feeling lost, because it creates pressure without context. Now let's connect this to something deeper. There's a concept in psychology called the expectation gap. It's the difference between what you thought life would be and what life actually is. And studies show the larger this gap, the stronger the feeling of dissatisfaction. And right now, that gap is growing globally. Recent economic data shows that younger generations increasingly feel worse off financially than their parents. Environics Institute. Think about that. For the first time in decades, many people feel like they are working harder, but progressing slower. So now, you are not just dealing with internal confusion, you are dealing with external pressure. And that combination, it amplifies the feeling of being lost. Now let's go even deeper, because there's something happening in your brain that most people don't understand. Your brain is designed for certainty. It wants to know what's next, where you're going, what your future looks like. But at 30, that certainty disappears. You start questioning your career, your relationships, your purpose, your direction, and your brain interprets that uncertainty as danger. That's why it feels uncomfortable. But here's the truth. That discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is changing. Research shows that uncertainty triggers both anxiety and curiosity in the brain at the same time. Forbes, meaning the same feeling that makes you anxious, is also the same feeling that can lead you to growth. So what you're experiencing right now is not breakdown, it's transition. You are moving from one version of yourself to another, and that space in between feels like being lost. But it's not. It's where transformation happens. Now let's bring in real-world examples from people who once felt lost, but later became extraordinary. Let's talk about Jeff Bezos. Before building Amazon, he was working on Wall Street. Stable job, good income, predictable life. From the outside, success. But internally, he felt something was missing. So he made a decision. That didn't make sense at the time. He left stability to pursue uncertainty, and that uncertainty became Amazon. Now let's go to Africa. Aliko Dangote started small, trading commodities, facing challenges, building slowly. There were moments of uncertainty, moments where direction wasn't clear, but he stayed in the process. Today, he is one of the richest men in Africa. Now Asia. Jack Ma, rejected from jobs, rejected from opportunities, failed multiple times. At one point, he couldn't even get hired at KFC. But that phase, that confusion, that uncertainty was not the end. It was preparation. And eventually, he built Alibaba. Now here's what connects all these stories. At some point, they all experienced uncertainty. They all had moments where the path was not clear. But instead of interpreting it as failure, they used it as direction. And that's the shift. Because most people, when they feel lost, they stop. But the people who eventually succeed, they explore, they move, they test, they adapt, and slowly, clarity begins to form. Because clarity is not found, it is built.